committee to order. Our first item is discussion of our architect proposals. So we have received, I believe, five, sorry. Yes, no, 6. 5 bids from different architects. Our lowest bid is from Northeast Collaborative. So do we have any discussions on those? I guess.
I know you're recommending Northeast, so perhaps you could tell us why, what you were looking for. The price is fairly obvious, but beyond that, was there any additional discussion?
Yeah, they came in, obviously, some of them were comparable for the most part, and some were not, given, and perhaps one of them just understood the extent of the work that we needed to do for it a little bit. I think in our discussion, the 3 discussions, it was fairly comparable services that were being rendered, and they weren't significantly different.
Other than that outlier, right?
Other than the outlier, yes. I think the district probably has experience with some of these vendors, and Mike and Richard also have some experience of them. Northeast Collaborative, I'll tell you that I have had experience with them and Granby doing a number of projects. That's not why they are on the list. We wanted to have five vendors, right, to come back to the board with, so that's completely irrelevant to the whole situation. So in the sense that we don't have significant differences in quality or otherwise, we don't see a reason not to take the lowest bidder at this point. I'll let my colleagues make any other editorial comments that they have experiences of. We did have the discussion together.
Well, the other vendors, like Gisalfi, I worked with them in White Plains quite a bit. They built the library here. Silver Petrocelli, Rich and I both had experience working with them. They've done, going back 30 years, they did the original kitchen renovations at the elementary schools back in the 1980s. So they were a long-standing Connecticut firm. And Northeast had, extensive school experience in Connecticut and Rhode Island. And, I took all the guys around and the different companies to all the schools, and he understood exactly what we were looking for, plus the other things we wanted them to be looking at. And so he got a grasp of what we wanted, and based on that, it was like, he's got the experience, he understands exactly what we want, and he's got the best price. It was, okay, let's go.
Did all of them have experience with libraries? The portables, I would assume, is more straightforward.
Yes, all of them have experience with libraries. Some of it, in fact, for all of them, it was building new schools, building elementary schools, building middle schools. Some were building high schools where they have new libraries, and some of them were also had total building renovations where rooms get repurposed. So they all had that grasp of what we wanted.
And do you have any sense of what their kind of workflow and backlog is relative to each other, or just Northeast in particular?
When
this
I
has
asked,
got to be a pretty small project in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, but these companies look at it as this could be the foot in the door. Do a good job here, then they've got that good feeling with the Board of Ed moving forward.
Okay.
So yeah, they all understand this is small, but it could be more. So
and you're confident with the timeline that they gave you?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
And what is our timeline if do we have expectations of when this will be completed?
Well, they are all in the range of like 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, 3 to 8 weeks from actually start date.
Okay.
And then the process to getting this approved, Alan, if you could just, if we, recommend to take it to the full board, it needs full board approval, would that be at the next meeting?
For this, yes, yes. I've actually, I think I took the liberty of putting this on the agenda.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Or?
Are we looking for these folks to really be the visionaries around the library, or are we really looking for them to do a more structural, this is how you could reconfigure? or both?
Well, it's all gonna fall off of getting rid of the portables.
Right.
So that's the first part of their focus is,
Right.
if we remove the portables, what do we have? And then it's the libraries. And then there's supposed to be a look at the other issues, mechanical issues, size of some of the elementary school classrooms, traffic flow, appropriateness of the size of the music rooms, cafeterias, things like that.
So I think it's a combination of
Yeah.
both. They're gonna take a lot of feedback from Dr. McGettigan and her team and the librarians and the principals.
Okay.
Take that information, kind of provide like options on what they could consider.
Right.
And then that team will say, well, this could work, it might not work, it kind of work in pairs. So a little bit of a visionary, but also, if structurally things have to change, then, they're gonna be the people that say, okay, you have to move this wall, it's not gonna be Dr. McGettigan and her team.
Yeah, I would envision it's first look at the site, then the spaces, and then what you can put in the spaces, right? That would be correct.
So
Yeah.
the reason I asked the questions, I agree with, I think that's the process we've outlined. And it's important. That said, when we are selecting, if we're looking at, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, if we've looked at, look, you've been particularly effective in your use of space, for example, or you've been particularly visionary in your thinking about libraries or about anything else, I'm just curious, is this pretty much just, this is work product versus work product and price versus looking at work they might have done and deciding if there's any qualitative difference or qualitative difference?
I.e., does anybody have a library expertise or something, right? Is that kind of where you're going?
Or other design expertise? Are they particularly good at the use of space, or are they particularly good at understanding how?
So they did give us like Silver Petrocelli, for example, in Northeast. They talk about other library redesigns.
Right.
Silver Petrocelli actually
Yes,
gave us some images of, I think it was Fairfield Public Schools, some work that they've done. So they've all done some degree of library redesign, some more than others. I know the Gisolfi one did a lot in New York.
Okay.
So they would probably piggyback off some of that information that they've done in the past to bring here.
Okay. That wasn't necessarily part of your selection criteria. Just we may have the information or not. We haven't gone back through and taken a look at that.
Yeah. Some of the vendors, when they came through the buildings, they went around with Joan McGettigan and myself, so that the libraries were, they were able to do some questioning and answering back and forth with her, but it was just their schedule coming to visit coincided with when she was free.
Okay.
So.
Do you know if Northeast was one of those?
No, Northeast wasn't one of them. Northeast came in the afternoon, but Northeast, from a different point of view, school was just ending, and so they got to talk to all the librarians and the people that use the library, but not Dr. McGettigan.
Got it.
So my sense of these people that they all have the same expert. I have experience of Northeast doing libraries and stuff, right? But when you put that word in there, reimagine, my probably best prediction here is we're going to have to curtail them in their imagining. I honestly don't think you're going to have a problem with any of them. In terms of the work, I think they're all skilled in that area. It might just be scaling some of it back because you just know how architects get.
All right.
So can we take a sense of the meeting to move forward with Northeast?
Definitely.
I will have one more question. I
Yep,
agree.
please.
But have either of you two worked with Northeast?
I have not.
No.
Just for the record, since I've said it, I have experience because I just want to be very clear, okay? I have not been involved in this process up until the submission of the actual
Right.
bid and stuff. But at the same time, I recommend them as an organisation that they should be considered because no reason they shouldn't be.
Well, you had a good experience. with
Yes,
them, I'm
yeah,
assuming.
yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Any others?
No, thank you.
Okay, sorry. So sense of the meeting to move forward to the board for
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Yes.
All in favor? It's unanimous? Sorry, but sense of the meeting, no?
No. You missed Monday's meeting, or whatever that was. So I can't even keep track.
Our next item is a discussion of the facilities master plan. So our master plan was created in let's back up a step. So there have been many members and citizens questioning what is the length of time of our master plan. So our master plan was created in 2016, and it was a 5-year plan. So to me, that expires in 2021. But some people have said that the plan began in 2013 or 2014, so it actually expires in 19. But I personally disagree. But I don't know how others feel. But I think the question is, are we comfortable with the plan? Do we need to begin to look forward, since if it is out of date in next year? Do we need to begin to have discussions of what our next master plan would be? When do we want to do that? Do we need to wait until we have firmer plans on Ox Ridge and understand where all those pieces go and so on? So just want to have a quick little discussion on what our thoughts are for that.
You want to go first?
You ready?
So the planning process typically takes a while. I have experience doing the town plan, and it's a pretty broad document, but I see no reason why we wouldn't want to start reviewing what we have now. I'm in agreement, when it was implemented, that's kind of the start date, not when you start planning for the implementation, but you're within kind of a year's calendar of that. So instead of letting that time period expire, why not start priming the pump, if you will, in terms of some ideas and gathering. And it sounds like even since my limited tenure, the sights of the board have changed in the district in implementing this, what we just discussed in that other agenda item. And so we should start working towards an update of the plan. And I would think that it's not a whole new plan, but look at what we have now and then make adjustments and update it and bring it forth to the board with its input, of course.
Well, I agree fundamentally. I think to have something launched in 2021, you've got to start working in 2020. That said, I think that we should be making decisions based off the current plan. I think that there's some things we can harvest from what we already have and keep moving forward. So I kind of see them as parallel processes. I don't think that we hold up decision making right now. But at the same time, I think it probably is time to order the next one. So to that end, I'd sort of like to see us put together a bit of a work plan for this committee, in terms of what our timing is, what our deliverables are, and so that we all have a common understanding of when we're doing what. I think that some of the conversations that we're having, we could really use we'll have these folks, but we have other conversations where we could really use the advice of an architect. So I think we need to be working with one at some point, and whether or not it's these folks and they build out, or whether we bid it out separately. But that's my answer. So.
Yeah. No. Do you have any thoughts?
I don't know actually if my colleagues agree or not, but so I'll just give my. I have some discussion with them, but I don't know if we're all in complete consensus. My general thought would be, we got a strategic planning process going on. I'd in part like to see. Well, it might be a nice affirmation that we do need to continue something or not. That there's a potential of that coming out of there or not. And I honestly think I would like to see this phase completed first, to see, before we bring somebody else in to see what we're doing, can we get this part completed first so that they take that under consideration and don't have to wait and backtrack. And that's my general sense. And then the third one is just everything that's in the pipeline right now, how much can we manage simultaneously one go?
Certainly.
So, I also think that the recommendations from this, Michael continues to use in the capital, that continues to drive, it's not as if it's redundant, so it's driving those. It did drive this removal of the portables, the reorganization of ELP. We're looking at campus security. So it's not as if the recommendations are from here, actually they're still being influential.
And many of them might carry through. Right?
So anyway, that's my sense.
Mine too. Yeah.
When would you kick it off then? Just again, back to the idea of sort of work
just
planning.
timing.
Timing. Yeah. In 2021, sort of January 20.
Well, I'd like to see the final approved inevitably, what are we doing with the buildings, right?
Right.
Like, what are we doing with it after this study, and we decide which direction to go and what, or how we're changing the buildings and what format. When that's completed, I mean, when would that be? If we were guessing, like.
So I think if this study was approved, figure 8 weeks from a start date, even if it's approved on Tuesday, they're not starting that Wednesday. So you figure at some point we'll probably have an idea of what that workload's going to look like in the summer. If we were to do another master plan, you'd probably be looking at maybe considering a bid in the 2020, the fiscal year 22 budget.
Yeah, this is for 2022 anyway.
A master plan document, like a full master plan document. My experience is typically you try to have them as like a 10-year document, and you include enrollment. So you dovetail an architect with the demographer, and those are usually pricey. I mean, they're usually $200,000 plus to get a document like that done.
And again, when I say we get started now, I mean,
Yeah.
look at what we have. This is not rush out and get something
Right.
done in 6 months. I mean, this is all in parallel with what's going on, and not ignoring what's going on with everything else. I know how things move in local government, and sometimes, you wake up and you have to run. So I think we're all in agreement. Like, we want to get started, but we also want to be very thoughtful of your time and the administration.
Yeah,
Yeah, for me, I just think, as Dr. Adley's saying, I think there's still a lot of pieces which are still in flux, if that's the right word, and I think we need to narrow to coalesce those and get those a little firmer. And personally, I actually think the plan is a fairly well done plan. I don't think much is going to change if we did a plan today or did a plan in 2 years. I think that it was done well, and there may be some other things which in the next 2 years times may change, and we may look at different things, but the general 80% of the plan should be somewhat intact.
And when you take that plus all the new information coming in from the strategic plan, from this study that we just discussed, Oxridge, and maybe even some other things that happen throughout town, who know the unknowns.
Exactly. We still have the buildings being done in town, which we don't. We're speculating what that's going to do. We're still not sure on that. So there's a lot of moving pieces that I think, to Mr. Rudel's point, is that if we put a lot of money down today or tomorrow, I'm not sure we get a full picture of what we need, and we should probably wait a little time, maybe better suited for a better product.
So I think it would be really helpful for the board to kind of see what we're talking about in a timeline, and understand why that's the timeline. I think that's an important point. Oxridge coming online, et cetera. I think the other factor is that while we have some facilities changes, our overall enrollment really functionally isn't changing. And so, those the underpinnings of that plan beyond the age of the buildings are changing. Dr. Adley, back to your point though about the strategic planning. My understanding was that the scope of the strategic planning really was primarily educational and not really about the facilities. That was to be a sort of a separate.
Yeah, so it's kind of a actually I think you said it, primarily educational in focus, but not the exclusivity of. If there was a real feeling that listen, some facilities are just in disarray or otherwise that they need. I don't think no one said that you can't discuss that. Like, I mean,
Sure.
So.
Or a new program that's recommended that might have to be at a certain site, that might fall out of it or something.
Yeah.
So I don't think exclusively, Joe.
Okay.
And I do believe, and I understand that it was presented as educational, just to try and narrow the focus a little bit, right? But
Well, to that end, I think we should be clear again about what kind of information might come from the strategic plan. It isn't going to be a master plan. It isn't going to be a total strategy for facilities, but it might inform the strategy that the facilities that we have for our facilities. It would be more informational as opposed to.
it could also just be literally reinforcing and validating
Sure.
the direction that we're taking.
But I think that if we're not clear that the strategic planning group isn't coming up with a strategy for facilities, those are different conversations, right?
Yeah, and at the same time, I'm saying that I don't think it would be honest to the process to actually inject something.
Yeah. Sorry.
Either or.
Yeah.
Either or, really.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're yeah.
So the to-do is maybe come up with a timeline,
Yeah.
and then you know, bounce that off the administration, I guess, would come up with that timeline, we'll take a look at it, and then have a broader discussion with the board.
So what I hear you saying, just like a tentative sort of draft timeline of when things might come together, when we might go out again, and we'll go from there.
And it doesn't have to happen by next Tuesday. Because, you know, with this
Oh, you've no fear about that.
No, in fact, Amy, would we bring it to facilities first?
Yeah, I think I want to hear you bringing it back to this meeting.
Yeah.
ID, do it, fit it in when you can.
I think that's a good segue to our next agenda item, which is discussion of the high school storage facility. So we have discussed this. We had a
Before you move
yeah.
on.
Oh, sorry.
One of the things that I think we did, but one of the things that I think that we're going to come to when we talk about the portables, as we prepare for the conversation about financing the portables, I think we'll need to be clear with the community about usage and capacity in the buildings, and some of that work was done by KG&D. I just want to make sure that we pull that back up, have another look at it, and are prepared to present it, because I think we're going to need to look at that again so that the community can understand you know, that we have looked at usage, that our enrollment hasn't functionally changed. It happened, I think, maybe in 15 or 16, maybe 16, but I believe.
So are you? I understand the terms you're using, but are you saying that you're primarily talking about enrollment and the space usage, or I'm trying to get?
Because I think that if we go out to say we need more space, we need to be clear that we have looked at the fact that we don't have it.
If we go out and say we need more space as part of this study, or part of it something new?
I think even the portables, I think we'll have to be clear that to the greater community that we're at capacity and that we've looked at that. And we have looked at it, we have talked about it. It was just so many years ago.
Okay.
And you've had so much, you know, you've got so many new players.
Right, okay.
That work, I think, needs to resurface. So sorry.
No, but I think, I mean, we just had the study done in December, and nothing really, or November, nothing really has, it's early December, nothing really has changed in our enrollment is fluctuating
Exactly.
1 or 2%, so.
Exactly, but we looked at the usage and how that, sorry.
No.
What the information we need to pull back out is what KG&D, where they looked at all the classrooms and they mapped out capacity and they looked at the percentage utilization rate. And again, I think that was in 16 when they did the plan. So I think that needs to just come back up and be part of the conversation, because otherwise, you know, I think there's conversation about redistricting, and we've looked at that, right? We don't have extra room, so we need to be clear about that. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Going back, so our last item is, our second to last item is discussion of the high school storage facility. So this has been bounced around here for a couple of years, and we're still unsure of what we need. I think at one point we have asked for some type of inventory of what we have. Do we have?
I
Yeah.
thought we were putting that off till next year.
We're just still trying to discuss of what we're trying to do and
No,
how we
not-
move it forward, and I think we need a little more information.
So the way I understood it is the board kind of pushed off the building, the idea of building storage, and Mike has come previously with a whole list of storage at the high school, right? I believe you handed that out last summer or something like that.
Yes, last May.
Yeah, so I think what my understanding is we have to really now look inside of what we have, and having some experience walking into those locker
Oh, you mean literally inside?
Yes. Yeah. Well, because it's pretty remarkable in terms of the space we have. We do have a tremendous amount of space there. It's how it's utilized may not be to its maximum capability. So I think my understanding was, okay, now we know where the storage is, but we don't know who the users are, how well it's organized or designed. I mean, Tara and I had coffee one Saturday when the football season was going. I said, have you ever been inside of, underneath the bleachers? And we actually walked up, and I kind of showed her put it kindly, disarray that the rooms were. And it's intra-season, I get that. But what I would love to understand is, again, now that we have the inventory, like who are the users? I know that, you know, one of the youth groups uses one side for a certain extent. You know, what isn't adequately being stored? What comes to mind is the hurdles and certain other things. You know, is there a way we can minimize the storage units, or, you know, kind of reallocate and clean up what we have?
Yeah, no, I agree. And to that point is, what are our needs? You know, because we could build a grandiose facility, but if we don't have that much need, do we just need a smaller place for hurdles and poles for pole vault, and maybe pads for the track?
Or like a California closets, for lack of a better term, to come
Right.
in and organize,
To organize the space we have.
maximize the spaces that we have. So realizing that, you know, there's a lot of balls in the air, so to speak, in this being not as high a priority for the board as I understood it. It was at one point, but we kind of removed that. If when there's time that admin can go in and kind of report back, hey, you know, we think we can increase utilization of what we have, and this might fit the need of what we're looking to
Right.
accomplish.
Jill, any comments?
Agreed.
Okay.
But what's the timing? What's realistic?
Mike, you clear about what we're hearing?
I think so. I had my inventory, and then I went around and made up a list of, you know, part of the thing is that it can't be centralized because you've got the sports facilities are spread out over a large area. So we were looking at small buildings. If you go to Hindley School, over the past years, the PTO has bought storage buildings, look like little garden sheds. They're storage buildings. They're very attractive, and there's one that's used for ELP furniture and little tricycles and stuff. It's still used by Laura Straighten, and the other one is used for holding all the stuff for the Hindley Happening. And they're very nice looking. And it's a good contrast at Hindley because there's one of these nice little buildings, and then on the other side of the football field, during football season, there's a Connex box. So you can see the difference. And so maybe it's a series of, you know, smaller, you know, garage type, very, you know, prefab type things. Look like they belong on, you know, out by somebody's garden, but, you know, they're industrial storage facilities. I'm looking at those now. And so we actually put a number in the 5-year plan as a placeholder for next year. There's a dollar amount showing up in there.
So, what wasn't clear, what I don't remember is the, you know, the specific new, I don't want to call them facilities, but sheds, if you will, at these remote locations that are needed.
Yes.
Versus what we have at that central location under the bleachers, mostly.
Yeah. You know, what you have under the bleachers is going to really only help the sports that use the stadium and the stadium east, which would be track, field hockey, some lacrosse, and football.
Soccer. Well, I mean, soccer doesn't have that much equipment.
Yeah, soccer is pretty easy because they don't have a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I think, and you also think of winter storage, right? I mean, they drag the lacrosse goals back and forth from.
Yeah.
So, I just think there's a desperate need to have remote locations that suit the intra-season needs. But I feel like we're giving away half our storage space to a youth league, and I see equipment out year-round. And if there's a way we can just look at the high school site and then, you know, come back with those remote facilities now that you want to move forward to, I feel like we can then inform the board, like, hey, this is kind of what we were looking for, and we don't have to go through a large facility build to accomplish it.
Agreed. Okay.
I've given it a little thought, you know.
That's the way I've been going the last month or so, is looking at that sort of information.
So I hear sort of getting an inventory from an athletic sort of point of view, right? and without getting any study done, right? Because we decided not to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to go from that to like putting the entire thing then on the staff to do. You know what I mean? And I'm not bringing this up as an idea or but I'm just reiterating what my understanding was, what we're inheriting here, right? That this pertains only to storage for athletics at the high school. And those reasons have been predetermined, or we're going to revisit those again. I'm only mentioning it because there's storage, like there's too much stuff in our district and our schools. Right? It's just so I'm not bringing that up to dovetail with this. I'm just being clear that when we say that, we're still referring only that has been predetermined, at least to relook at for athletics.
I think the last facilities committee meeting, we talked at least at the high school about looking at athletics and facilities needs, maybe not classroom needs, but facilities needs, and just making sure that at the same time, I think you thought you had enough storage, but just making sure at the same time that because, they might intersect.
Like the golf carts were
Right.
brought up.
Yes.
Just making sure that there's room for the
There's
golf
room
carts.
for the golf cart somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
That we're not superseding athletic equipment to push the golf carts out.
Right.
So that's as far as I think it would go. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So that made, I guess it made sense, so I'm asking.
Yeah.
So one of the things we asked about from the board perspective was putting this on goals and objectives with the right sort of timing. So I'd like to understand what's realistic for you all, given all that's on the plate. Like, what is the real timing of this project? Is this something you're looking at? I understand there's a placeholder in for next year, but when is the work we're talking about to be done? Is it starting? Is it next fall?
Aggressively, no.
Right.
I walked away from the table thinking the most we're going to do at this point is just do an inventory of kind of what we have at the moment accurately,
Okay.
and then bring that back when.
Okay.
And if this committee continues to meet on a monthly basis, at least we have updates and different
Yep.
processes to
I just
give feedback.
Again, I feel like we might want to map some of that or something, because I want us all to be on the same page about what expectations are when. I don't want us all of a sudden to say, okay, let's build a storage facility tomorrow because we're ready. From both a financial and a work planning perspective, I'd like to be clear about the burden we are or are not placing on people.
Well, I would imagine that we would still, if we were going to be serious about it, a study at some point, and I think collectively the board took a position not to do that at this point. So I just probably don't have the resources or now processes in place to actually do it comprehensively.
Right. Right. So we need to be clear about that.
Well, that's what I'm being clear. That's not my top priority.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
I mean, completing this Oxridge and completing the project that we've just embarked upon. Not an exclusivity of everything else, but anyway, I just think we've made some decisions regarding that.
Any other points?
So we're talking like a 6-month time frame, if not greater.
Actually, I just don't want to commit to a time frame until
Okay.
honestly, I really don't want to. I don't really want to commit to a time frame until I've really thought that out, what that means without circumventing what I think the board has already told me to do, right, as a group,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And B, what's realistic then when we get together to say.
Okay.
That's all. So I guess with today you're reiterating. I think we'd like to do the inventory and give us a wee sense without putting undue pressure on the staff.
Exactly.
And if we come back next month and say, we haven't done the inventory yet, that's okay.
Great.
We'll just keep it
As a
so that
placeholder.
as a placeholder.
Who's taking the minutes of this meeting? I'm just
Video.
Actually, the video was. Sorry, I forgot about that. Thank you.
When we do come back to goals and objectives, we just want to make sure that whatever's on that, vis-a-vis that item is worded that reflects, the fact that we're not, the goal as it is set out should be realistic for what we're actually asking the administration to accomplish this year.
And without a study.
Our last item is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none?
Motion adjourned.
Accepted.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
weekend, everyone.
Thank you. You too.